The panel chair looks at me across the table. Professional misconduct, facilitating money laundering, potential criminal referral. 3 years ago, I helped launder $3.2 million. The worst part? I had absolutely no idea I was doing it. Vincent Kowalski seemed perfect. International businessman, impeccable credentials. My senior partner approved everything. On November 18th, 2019, we closed the deal. $3.2 million wired from Hong Kong. Clean, professional, by the book, and completely, catastrophically illegal. FINTRAC discovered the pattern. 15 transactions, 4 different aliases, $18 million laundered over 5 years. I was victim number 7. He documented everything. Every lawyer researched, every weakness identified. My name on his list. Return target, high probability. Because the first time worked. He was coming back. Same man, different name, ready to use me again. Detective Reeves had one chance to catch him. Help us set the trap. You're the perfect bait. $2.8 million. Wire transfer initiated. Ontario Provincial Police. This is the story of how a lawyer helped launder $3.2 million without knowing it, and how I got a second chance to nab the guy, clear my name, and change the law. The panel chair looks at me across the table. Her expression is professionally neutral, but I can see the weight of what's coming in her eyes. Mr. Carter, do you understand the charges against you? I nod. My throat is too dry to speak. Professional misconduct, facilitating money laundering, potential criminal referral to the Crown. 3 years ago, I helped launder $3.2 million. The worst part? I had absolutely no idea I was doing it. Let me back up. There are 3 of them sitting across from me, all lawyers, all people who've spent decades building the same kind of reputation I'm about to lose. They're reviewing documents, my documents, transaction files, wire transfer records, client intake forms, everything I did by the book, everything that's now evidence against me. My lawyer seated beside me shifts slightly. That's not a good sign. James taught me that. Small movements in formal settings betray nervousness. James Harper, my former senior partner, the man who approved this transaction, the man who's now retired, sitting in his lakeside house, while I'm here. But I'm not bitter. James didn't know either. That's what makes this so perfect. So devastating. 10 days ago, February 4th, 2022, 2:47 in the morning. I couldn't sleep. Work stress, partnership pressure, normal lawyer anxiety. I came downstairs to my home office, thinking I'd review files for an hour, tire myself out. That's when I saw it. The certified letter from the Law Society. It had arrived yesterday, but I'd been in court all day. My wife had signed for it, left it on my desk. Official Law Society letterhead, investigation notice. My hands started shaking before I even opened it. Pursuant to Section 49.3 of the Law Society Act, you are hereby notified that the Law Society of Ontario has commenced an investigation into your professional conduct regarding a trust account transaction, dated November 18th, 2019. November 2019. 3 years ago. I was still a junior associate then, hadn't even made partner yet. What transaction? I'd handled hundreds in 2019. Involving the transfer of $3,200,000 Canadian dollars through your trust account in connection with the purchase of 47 Rosedale Crescent, Toronto. Rosedale. Luxury property. I remembered that one. Client was Vincent Kowalski, international buyer from Hong Kong. Sarah Lynn had referred him. Everything checked out. FINTRAC has identified suspicious activity patterns consistent with money laundering. The words blurred. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. Money laundering? I don't launder money. I'm a real estate lawyer. I follow the rules. I verify everything. Michael. My wife, Emma, standing in the doorway, hair disheveled from sleep. She saw my face and knew immediately something was catastrophically wrong. What is it? I couldn't answer. I just handed her the letter. She read it, sat down beside me, put her hand on mine. This has to be a mistake, she said. I wanted to believe that. But the Law Society doesn't make mistakes like this. FINTRAC, the Financial Transactions and Reports Analysis Center of Canada, doesn't flag transactions randomly. If they flagged it, there was a reason. September 14th, 2019. I was 39 then, junior associate at Harper & Associates, 15 years in real estate law, but still working my way up, still proving myself. The file came across my desk that morning. Standard luxury property sale. 47 Rosedale Crescent. Asking price, $3.4 million. Seller was motivated. Estate sale. Needed quick closing. I remember thinking this could be good for my numbers. Big commission for the firm. James would be pleased. Maybe it would help my partnership case. Real estate law is detail work. It's verification, documentation, due diligence. It's making sure every I is dotted, every T crossed. Because one mistake, one missed red flag, and you can destroy a client's life savings. Or, apparently, help criminals clean millions in dirty money. But I didn't know that yet. 47 Rosedale was beautiful. Historic Toronto home. 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms. Original hardwood, renovated kitchen, finished basement. The kind of property that sells itself. Sarah Lynn had the listing. Sarah and I had worked together maybe a dozen times over the years. She was sharp, professional, brought good clients. When she called me about representing the buyer, I didn't hesitate. Michael, I've got a client who's very interested in the Rosedale property. International buyer, needs representation. You available? Absolutely. Who's the client? Vincent Kowalski. He's based in Hong Kong but looking to establish a Canadian presence. Runs an import-export business. Very professional. Very serious. That should have been my first question. What kind of import-export business? But it wasn't unusual. Toronto's full of international investors. Hong Kong buyers were common. I said yes. I met Vincent Kowalski on September 21st, 2019. Sarah had arranged a property viewing, and I met them both there. I don't usually attend property showings. That's the agent's job. But Sarah had mentioned this was a high net worth international client, the kind who might need ongoing legal work, corporate matters, estate planning, future acquisitions, worth the investment of an afternoon to make the introduction in person. Vincent was impressive. Early 50s, I'd guess. European features, perfectly tailored suit, expensive watch. The kind of client who makes you sit up straighter. He spoke English with a slight accent. Eastern European, maybe. But his vocabulary was impeccable. Mr. Carter, pleasure to meet you. Sarah speaks very highly of your expertise. Firm handshake. Direct eye contact. Confident, but not arrogant. We toured the property. He asked intelligent questions. Structural soundness. Property taxes. Zoning restrictions. Exactly the questions a serious buyer asks. Not too many, not too few. Sarah was her usual professional self. She'd done her homework on Vincent, had his references, proof of funds, photo ID, everything a good agent should verify. At the end of the viewing, Vincent said, "I'd like to make an offer." Sarah smiled. I felt that little rush you get when a deal is coming together. I'll draft the paperwork, I told him. Over the next week, Vincent provided everything I needed. And I mean everything. Hong Kong business registration for Kowalski International Trading Limited, corporate documents, proof of funds, letter from HSBC Hong Kong, showing liquid assets exceeding $10 million. 3 professional references, photo ID, Hong Kong ID card, and Canadian business visa. I verified what I could. The HSBC letter had the right watermarks, correct formatting. The business registration looked legitimate. I even checked the Hong Kong company's registry online. Company was listed, established 2015, good standing. The references checked out. I called all 3. 2 were other lawyers in Hong Kong. 1 was a business associate in Vancouver. All vouched for Vincent. Very professional. Excellent client. Always pays promptly. Looking back now, I know these were all fabricated. The company was a shell. The documents were forgeries. The references were either accomplices or people who'd been paid to vouch for him. But they were good forgeries, professional grade. The kind that fool careful lawyers. The kind that fooled me. Before any transaction over $2 million, James reviewed my files. Firm policy. He'd been practicing for 40 years. He'd seen everything. If something was off, James would catch it. I brought him the Kowalski file on October 3rd. He went through it methodically, checked the documents, reviewed the offer, looked at the client verification. Looks solid, Michael. HSBC proof of funds is good. References check out. Property value's fair. I don't see any issues. He signed off. James Harper's signature on the file review sheet. That signature meant everything to me then. It was validation. Proof I was doing the work correctly. Now, it just means we were both deceived, because on November 18th, 2019, we closed the deal. Vincent Kowalski wired $3.2 million from Hong Kong. It sat in my trust account for 48 hours while we finalized paperwork. Then we dispersed it. $3.1 million to the seller, the rest to various closing costs, realtor commissions, land transfer tax. Clean, professional, by the book, and completely, catastrophically illegal. The FINTRAC report was 12 pages long. I read all 12 pages 7 times that first night, sitting in my home office while my wife tried to sleep upstairs, reading by the light of my desk lamp, trying to understand how this happened. FINTRAC is Canada's financial intelligence agency. They monitor money laundering and terrorist financing. Banks, lawyers, accountants were all required to report suspicious transactions to them. But I hadn't reported anything, because nothing seemed suspicious. The report showed what I'd missed, what I should have seen. The wire transfer originated from HSBC Hong Kong, yes, but before that, it had passed through 3 other accounts. First, a Singapore LLC, then a Delaware corporation, then a numbered account in the Cayman Islands. Each transfer created a layer. Each layer obscured the original source. By the time the money reached my trust account, it looked clean. But FINTRAC's algorithms can track these patterns. They see the layering. They see the shell companies. They see the classic money laundering structure. The money had started somewhere in Eastern Europe, probably from organized crime, drug trafficking, human smuggling, extortion. I don't know. The report didn't say. But it flowed through this network. Origin unknown, to Singapore Shell Company, to Delaware Corporation, to Cayman Islands account, to HSBC Hong Kong, to my trust account, to legitimate Canadian real estate transaction. That's called layering in anti-money laundering terminology. You move dirty money through multiple clean transactions until its origin is untraceable. Real estate is perfect for this because properties are expensive, transactions are common, and lawyers' trust accounts are considered secure. I'd been used. my reputation, my trust account, my professional credentials, all used to clean $3.2 million in criminal proceeds. And sitting there at 2:47 in the morning, reading this report, all I could think was, how did I miss this? The answer, I'd soon learn, was that I'd been targeted. Specifically, carefully, by someone who'd done this before. Many times before. I called James at 7 a.m., woke him up. Didn't care. James, we have a problem. The Kowalski transaction, November 2019. FINTRAC flagged it for money laundering. Silence on the line. Then, I'll be at your office in an hour. James is 62 now, retired 6 months ago to his place in Muskoka. But he came back to Toronto immediately, because this was his signature on that file review too, his reputation on the line alongside mine. We sat in my office, door closed, phones off, just 2 lawyers staring at documents that proved we'd been played. I verified everything, I told him. The proof of funds was legitimate, the references checked out, the business registration. I looked it up online, James. It was there. I know, he said quietly. I checked it too, before I signed off. We sat in silence for a moment. The Law Society knows you approved it, I said. They could come after both of us. James looked at me. His eyes were tired, guilty. They should come after me, Michael. You were a junior associate. I was the senior partner. I should have caught this. Neither of us could have caught this, I said. Look at these documents. They're perfect. The letterhead, the formatting, the watermarks. These aren't amateur forgeries. Then who is Vincent Kowalski? That was the question that would consume the next 3 days of my life. If we can't prove we were deceived, James said slowly, if we can't show we were victims of a sophisticated fraud. He didn't finish, didn't need to. If we couldn't prove we were victims, we were accomplices. And accomplices go to prison, lose their law licenses, lose everything. We need to prove Vincent Kowalski isn't who he said he was, I said. We need to prove those documents were forged. We need to show the Law Society we did our due diligence and were still deceived. James nodded. How much time do we have? I checked the letter again. Hearing is February 14th, 10 days. 10 days to prove I wasn't a criminal. 10 days to save my career, my reputation, my family's future. James stood up. Then we'd better get started. The next 48 hours blurred together. Coffee, documents, computer screens. Emma bringing me food I barely touched. I pulled every file from the Kowalski transaction, every email, every phone record, every piece of paper that had crossed my desk. I called the HSBC number on the proof of funds letter. Got a recorded message. The number you have dialed is not in service. I searched for Kowalski International Trading in the Hong Kong Company's registry again. It was still there. But when I dug deeper, I found the registration had been filed with an address that didn't exist. The company had no website, no online presence, no actual business activity. It was a shell. Professionally created, perfectly legitimate looking, but hollow. The references. I tried calling them again. 2 numbers disconnected. The third, the Vancouver business associate, turned out to be a real person, a real business owner. When I reached him, he had no idea who Vincent Kowalski was. Someone used your name as a reference, I told him. That's identity theft, he said. You should report it. Identity theft. Fraud. Forgery. And I'd fallen for all of it. I created a timeline on my office whiteboard. September 14th, 2019. Sarah refers Vincent Kowalski. September 21st, 2019. First meeting at property. September 28th, 2019. Offer accepted. October 3rd, 2019. James reviews and approves file. October 15th, 2019. All documents submitted. November 18th, 2019. Wire transfer received. Transaction closed. Money disbursed. Deal complete. Everything had moved smoothly. No delays, no complications, no red flags that I could see. But now, looking at that timeline, I saw something else. Speed. The whole transaction took 65 days from first contact to close. That's fast for a $3 million international deal. Why the rush? Why pressure for a quick close? Because speed creates urgency. Urgency reduces scrutiny. Get the lawyer focused on deadlines instead of details. It was manipulation. Professional, calculated manipulation. And it had worked perfectly. On the third day, Emma came into my office around midnight. She saw the whiteboard, the scattered documents, the coffee cups. "Michael, you have to sleep." "I can't. The hearing is in 7 days." She picked up the family photo from my desk. Me, Emma, our 2 kids, taken last summer. Everyone smiling. "They need their father," she said quietly. "Not this." She was right. But I didn't know how to stop. Didn't know how to turn off the terror that was consuming me. "I was so careful," I whispered. "I did everything right." "I know," she said. She put the photo down. "But someone else did something wrong, and you're going to prove it." I wish I had her confidence. On February 7th, 3 days after receiving the letter, I finally found proof. The Hong Kong business registration. I'd verified it in the online registry. But I decided to contact the Hong Kong company's registry directly, called their verification hotline. "I need to verify a company registration. Kowalski International Trading Limited. Registration number 2847563. The clerk put me on hold. Came back 2 minutes later. "Sir, that registration number exists, but it's not Kowalski International Trading. That number belongs to a company called Hong Kong Textiles Limited. Registered 2008. Completely different entity." My hands went numb. "Are you certain?" "Yes, sir. The registry number on your document doesn't match the company name. Someone had taken a real registration number, changed the company name, created a perfectly formatted document with correct watermarks and signatures. Professional forgery, high-level fraud. I had proof. Vincent Kowalski had presented fraudulent documents. That meant I was a victim, not a perpetrator. But it also meant something else. This wasn't amateur hour. This was organized, sophisticated, professional. This was someone who'd done this before. I dug deeper. Searched for Vincent Kowalski online. Found nothing. No social media. No news articles. No trace of a person by that name in Hong Kong or Toronto or anywhere else. Searched for Kowalski International Trading. Found the fake registry entry and nothing else. No import-export activity. No shipping records. No business transactions. The man didn't exist. The company didn't exist. But the money? That was very, very real. $3.2 million had flowed through my trust account from unknown criminal sources into Canadian real estate. I'd helped do that. Unknowingly, yes. But my ignorance wouldn't save my law license, wouldn't save my reputation. I needed more. I needed to know who Vincent Kowalski really was, where he'd come from, why he'd targeted me, and whether he'd done this to anyone else. I called Sarah Lynn. It was late, nearly 11 p.m., but she answered. "Michael, is everything okay?" "Sarah, I need to ask you about Vincent Kowalski." Pause. "The Rosedale deal? That was 3 years ago. Why?" "The Law Society is investigating me for money laundering. The Kowalski transaction." Silence. Then, what? Michael, no, that can't be right. The documents were forged. The company was fake. FINTRAC flagged the wire transfer. I need to know everything you remember about him. I could hear her breathing on the line, processing. He came through a referral. Another client said she knew him from Hong Kong business circles. Who? What client? Margaret Chen. She'd bought a property from me in 2018. Very wealthy family, legitimate business. She called me in August 2019. Said her associate Vincent was looking to buy in Toronto. Could I help? Do you still have contact information for Margaret? I can find it. Michael, I had no idea. The references all checked out. I verified. I know, I said. I verified too. We both got played. Can you send me everything you have on Kowalski? And Margaret Chen's information? I'll do it tonight. Sarah, has he contacted you recently? For anything else? Long pause. Too long. Sarah? He called last week, she said quietly. Said he had another buyer, international client, looking for a property in the 2 to 3 million range. Asked if I knew any good real estate lawyers. The floor dropped out from under me. What did you tell him? I gave him your name. Michael, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. It was 3 years ago I didn't connect. Sarah, did you set up a meeting? No, he said he'd contact you directly. I haven't heard back from him. He was coming back. The man who'd used me to launder $3 million, he was coming back for more. Because the first time worked. Because I didn't know. Because I'd be an easy target again. Michael, what do we do? I need you to send me everything on that new client. Everything Kowalski told you. Every word he said. I'll send it now. Michael, I'm so sorry. If I'd known... It's not your fault, I said. Though part of me wasn't sure. Just send me everything. I hung up, sat in my office, staring at nothing. Victor Kozlov, or whoever he really was, had targeted me once, successfully, and now he was coming back. That's when I realized this was bigger than one transaction, bigger than one lawyer. This was a system, a methodology, and I needed help. February 8th, 2022. Ontario Provincial Police Headquarters, Financial Crimes Unit. Detective Karen Reeves was 45, 20 years in financial crimes. She had the kind of patient, methodical demeanor you want in someone investigating complex fraud. Mr. Carter, thank you for coming in. I understand the Law Society investigation has you worried. Worried. That's one word for it. Detective, I believe I was used to launder money, but I also believe I was specifically targeted. The documents were sophisticated forgeries. The entire operation was professional. And now the same person has contacted my associate about another deal. She leaned forward. Another deal? A different name, but I think it's the same person. The timing, the approach, the setup, it's identical. Tell me everything. I spent an hour walking her through it. The Kowalski transaction, the forged documents, Sarah's referral, the new contact, everything. She listened, took notes, asked pointed questions. When I finished, she said, "Mr. Carter, I think you need to see something." She opened her laptop, pulled up a file. 2 weeks ago, FINTRAC referred multiple suspicious transactions to us, not just yours. They'd run pattern recognition algorithms across their database, looking for similar methodologies. She turned the screen toward me. They found 15. My stomach dropped. 15 transactions, 5 years, 4 different aliases, 3 provinces. Same basic methodology, same money laundering structure. 4 aliases? She clicked through, showed me names. Vincent Kowalski, Victor Kozlov, Vitaly Kosevich, Victor Kozlov. Different spellings, slight variations, but similar enough to be the same person, or someone using a pattern. Lawyers? I asked. All real estate lawyers. All transactions between 2 and 4 million. All international buyers. All supposedly from Hong Kong or Singapore. How many were successful? 7, including yours. 8 failed. The lawyers caught red flags. Deals fell through. But 7 went through. 7 lawyers processed these transactions. 7 lawyers. 7 trust accounts. How much money total? Total amount laundered. Detective Reeves looked at me. $18 million. She showed me the pattern analysis. FINTRAC's algorithms had identified common elements. Wire transfers through multiple jurisdictions. Shell companies in Delaware, Singapore, Cayman Islands. HSBC Hong Kong as final sender. Real estate properties in Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary. Purchase prices between 2.5 and 4 million. Quick closing timelines, 60 to 90 days. Professional forged documents. Business registrations with real registry numbers, but fake names. Proof of funds, letters with authentic-looking letterhead. References that checked out initially, but led nowhere. And the lawyers, all junior partners or senior associates. All with good reputations. All working at small to mid-sized firms. All with senior partners who reviewed and approved the files. He targets a specific profile, Detective Reeves said. Lawyers ambitious enough to want big clients, experienced enough to be trusted, junior enough to be slightly insecure, working at firms where one senior partner reviews everything. That was me. Exactly me, 3 years ago. Why the senior partner review? I asked. Because it creates a second layer of legitimacy. If a senior partner signs off, the junior partner stops questioning, stops looking for problems. The review becomes a stamp of approval instead of due diligence. She was right. Once James signed off, I stopped worrying. I trusted his judgment. He exploits that gap, she said. The junior trusts the senior's approval. The senior trusts the junior's verification. Neither looks deep enough, and the transaction goes through. Brilliant. Devastating. Effective. You said 8 failed. Why? Various reasons. One lawyer insisted on a video call with the client, which the suspect refused. One required additional banking verification. One deal fell through for unrelated reasons. The suspect walks away at the first sign of extra scrutiny. He doesn't push, doesn't argue, just disappears. Patient, professional, willing to fail and move on. How many lawyers total has he approached? We don't know. These are just the ones FINTRAC caught. There could be more. She took me to a conference room. One wall was covered with an investigation board, map of Canada, pins in Toronto, Mississauga, Vancouver, Calgary, Ottawa. Each pin marked a transaction. Photos. 4 different men, different hair, different clothes, but same age range, same European features, same build. Are these all him? I asked. We think so. Different disguises, different identities. But facial recognition software says there's a 68% probability it's the same person. I looked at the photos. Vincent Kowalski looked back at me from one of them. The man I'd met. The man I'd trusted. What do we know about him? Almost nothing. The identities are all fake. No immigration records match these names and faces. No criminal records. No fingerprints in any database. Whoever he is, he's a ghost. But the money is real. The money is very real, and it had to come from somewhere. We're working on tracing the original sources, but it's going through so many layers. She trailed off. So we can't find him. We couldn't. Until now. She looked at me. Until he made a mistake. Until he contacted Sarah about coming back to you. I stared at the board. $18 million. 7 successful transactions, 8 failed attempts, 15 total tries over 5 years, 4 aliases, same methodology, same target profile, same results, professional, patient, effective. This isn't just money laundering, I said. This is his profession. We believe he's working for an organized crime syndicate, probably Eastern European based on the accent multiple witnesses described. The syndicate generates criminal proceeds, drug trafficking, human smuggling, whatever. He's the money cleaner. He takes dirty money and turns it into clean Canadian real estate. Why real estate? High-value transactions are normal. Lawyers' trust accounts are considered secure. Properties can be held or sold. It's perfect for large-scale laundering. One transaction can clean millions. I thought about that. 7 transactions, $18 million. How much of that stayed in real estate? How much got moved elsewhere? What happens to the properties? Sold within 6 months to a year, usually to numbered companies, sometimes at a loss. They don't care about property value. They care about clean money on the other side. The scope of it hit me. This wasn't a crime. This was an industry, a professional money laundering operation spanning years, provinces, millions of dollars. And I'd been a cog in that machine, an unwitting participant. "Detective," I said quietly, "how do I prove I didn't know?" She looked at me for a long moment. "You help us catch him in the act." "He's contacting Sarah about a new client," she said. "That means he's planning another transaction. If we can catch him attempting to launder money through a lawyer who's cooperating with us." "You mean me?" "You're the perfect bait, Mr. Carter. He's already used you once, successfully. From his perspective, you're a proven target. Safe. Trustworthy. He has no reason to think you know." "But I do know. How do I act normal?" "You don't have to act. You just have to be a good lawyer. Do what you'd normally do. Process the documents. Ask the questions you'd ask. He'll expect that. What he won't expect is that we're watching, recording, building a case. And if he suspects, if he walks away like he did with the others, then we've lost our chance. But Mr. Carter, this might be your only shot at proving you were deceived. The Law Society wants evidence you were a victim, not an accomplice. Catching him in an attempted repeat offense, that's evidence. I understood the logic. But the risk? What if something goes wrong? What if the transaction actually processes? What if I'm facilitating money laundering again, even as a cooperating witness? We won't let it get that far. The moment he initiates a wire transfer, we move, we arrest. The transaction never completes. And what about the Law Society hearing? That's in 6 days. She paused. I'll contact them. Explain you're cooperating with an active investigation. Request a postponement. Will they grant it? I don't know. But if you help us catch him, you'll have a hell of a defense. If you do this, she said, you wear a wire. Your office will be monitored. Every communication with him gets recorded. You'll have backup nearby at all times. And you'll be helping us stop something bigger than one lawyer's career. You'll be stopping a professional money laundering operation. I thought about it. Thought about the risk, the fear, the possibility of making everything worse. But I also thought about $18 million in dirty money. 7 other lawyers who'd been used just like me. And a criminal who was still out there, still operating, still planning his next transaction. If I do this and he gets caught, am I clear? With the Law Society? I can't make promises about the Law Society's decision, but you'll have evidence you were targeted by a professional criminal. Evidence you cooperated with law enforcement. Evidence you were a victim. That was the best I was going to get. I looked at the evidence board again, at the 4 faces of the same ghost, at the map showing his reach across Canada. at the 7 names of lawyers he'd successfully used. My name was on that list. Michael Carter, facilitator of a $3.2 million money laundering transaction. I could walk away, prepare for my hearing, hope the Law Society believed my story, hope they accepted that I'd been deceived, hope my career survived. Or I could fight back, actively, by helping catch the man who'd used me. One option was passive, safe, limited. The other was active, risky, but potentially redemptive. I thought about Emma, about my kids, about the photo on my desk. What do I need to do? I asked. Detective Reeves nodded, slid a document across the table. First, you sign this cooperation agreement. Then, we prepare you for contact. When he calls, and we believe he will, you act natural. Express interest. Set up a meeting, and we take it from there. I picked up the pen. Thought about James's signature on that file review, about how one name on a document can change everything. I signed. Okay, Detective Reeves said. Let's catch him. February 9th. Detective Reeves spent the morning in court, securing authorization for electronic surveillance, wiretaps, office monitoring, recording devices. She called me at noon. We're approved. Surveillance team will install equipment tonight. Can you stay out of your office until tomorrow morning? Yes. Good. And Mr. Carter? From this point forward, assume everything is being recorded. Office phone, cell phone, in-person meetings. We need clean evidence, admissible in court. So, no deviations from the plan. No improvisation. Understand? Understood. If he calls, we'll hear it. If he emails, we'll see it. If he meets you in person, we'll record it. Just be yourself. Be a lawyer processing a transaction. That's all you need to do. Be myself. Process a transaction, while knowing I'm bait in a trap for an international money launderer. Sure. Simple. That night, I met Emma at a restaurant for dinner. Stayed out of the office while the technical team worked. She asked how the meeting with the detective went. I'm cooperating with the investigation, I told her. Wearing a wire, trying to help catch him if he makes contact. She was quiet for a moment. Is it dangerous? They'll have backup. Surveillance. I won't be alone. That's not what I asked. I looked at my wife. She deserved honesty. It's risky, but it might be my only shot at proving I was deceived, at saving my career. She reached across the table, took my hand. Then do it. But please, be careful. I will. We finished dinner, drove home, acted normal, except nothing was normal anymore. February 10th, morning. Detective Reeves brought me to a secure location for briefing. 3 other officers present, 2 surveillance specialists, and 1 undercover officer who'd pose as my assistant during any meetings. Your office has been equipped with 3 hidden cameras and 4 microphones, one of the tech specialists explained. Audio quality is excellent, video quality sufficient for facial identification. Everything records to a secure server. We monitor in real time from a van parked 2 blocks away. What if he suggests meeting somewhere else? Coffee shop? Restaurant? We have mobile units. Body wire will handle audio. Phone tracking gives us location. We adapt. What if he wants to see the property before making an offer? Sarah's part of this now. She'll cooperate. We'll have agents posing as groundskeepers, nearby property viewers. Whatever we need. You won't be exposed. And if he suspects, if something feels off to him? Detective Reeves answered that. Then he walks away, like he's done before. But we still have evidence he approached you for what we believe is another money laundering transaction. That helps your case. And if he doesn't suspect, if everything goes according to plan, then he attempts a wire transfer. The moment money moves, we move. Arrest at the bank. Charges filed. Transaction stops before it completes. You're clean. In theory. Sarah was there too. She'd agreed to cooperate, to help set up the introduction, just like before. "I'm so sorry, Michael," she said again. "If I'd known." "Sarah, we both got used. Now we're going to help stop him." She nodded. "What do I tell him when he calls?" "Tell him exactly what you'd tell any client," Detective Reeves said. "That Michael's a great lawyer, reliable, professional. You've worked with him before. Everything went smoothly. Make it sound natural, like a normal referral. And if he asks about the previous transaction, about Vincent Kowalski, answer honestly. It closed smoothly. No issues. That's what he wants to hear. Confirmation that you and Michael are reliable, safe targets." Sarah looked uncomfortable. "I'm lying to set him up." "No," Detective Reeves corrected. "You're telling him what actually happened. The transaction did close smoothly. There were no issues during the deal. You're not lying about facts. You're just not telling him what you know now. Legal nuance. But it mattered. They fitted me with a wire. Tiny microphone attached to my chest, hidden under my shirt. Transmitter the size of a deck of cards clipped to my belt, concealed under my suit jacket. Act natural, the tech said. Don't touch it. Don't adjust it. Don't think about it. How do I not think about wearing a wire while meeting a professional criminal? He smiled slightly. Practice. You'll get used to it. They ran me through scenarios. What if he asks about my background? What if he asks why I'm available on short notice? What if he asks for references? Answer honestly. Background: 15 years real estate law, junior partner at Harper & Associates. Available because I'm building my client base. References: happy to provide. Here's my Law Society profile. All true. All normal. All exactly what a legitimate lawyer would say. The key, Detective Reeves told me, is that you're not pretending to be someone else. You're being yourself. A real estate lawyer processing what appears to be a legitimate transaction. That's not an act. That's your job. She was right. But it still felt like acting. February 10th afternoon. Sarah made the call from her office. We listened in from the surveillance van. Mr. Kozlov, this is Sarah Lynn. We spoke last week about a property for your client. Yes, Sarah, of course. Have you identified suitable options? His voice. Smooth, confident, slightly accented. I recognized it immediately. Vincent Kowalski. Victor Kozlov. Same person. Same voice. I have several properties in the 2 to 3 million range that might interest your buyer. Would you like to arrange viewings? That would be excellent. And legal representation? You mentioned a reliable attorney? Yes. Michael Carter at Harper & Associates. I've worked with him before. Very professional, very thorough. I'd be happy to introduce you. Please do. I'd like to meet him as soon as possible. My client is eager to establish a Canadian presence quickly. Eager. Quick. The same rush as before. The same pressure to move fast. I can arrange an introduction tomorrow if you're available, Sarah said. Tomorrow would be perfect. Shall we say 2 p.m. at your office? That works. I'll confirm with Michael and send you the address. Thank you, Sarah. I look forward to it. He hung up. Sarah sat there for a moment, processing. In the van, Detective Reeves looked at me. You're on. Tomorrow. 2 p.m. 24 hours to prepare for a meeting with a ghost. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed replaying the phone conversation. His voice, his tone, the way he'd said quickly, the way he'd thanked Sarah. Polite, professional, exactly like Vincent Kowalski. Because it was the same act, the same performance. He'd done this so many times it was smooth, natural, practiced. Tomorrow, I'd meet him again. Except this time, I'd know what he was planning, what he'd already done. The question was, could he tell that I knew? I got up, went to my office, pulled up Detective Reeves's case files. She'd given me copies. Studied all 15 transactions, read the details, looked for patterns. The methodology was consistent. Step 1. Contact real estate agent, preferably one who'd worked with you before. Reference a previous client or colleague. Establish trust through association. Step 2. Express interest in property. Be specific about price range. Show knowledge of the market. Ask intelligent questions. Step 3. Request legal representation. Accept agent's referral. Meet lawyer in person. This is critical. Build rapport. Appear professional, legitimate, knowledgeable. Step 4. Provide documentation. Proof of funds, business registration, references. All high-quality forgeries. All designed to pass surface-level verification. Step 5. Move quickly but not urgently. 60 to 90 days is ideal. Long enough to seem legitimate, short enough to prevent deep investigation. Step 6. Close the deal. Wire transfer through multiple shell companies. Money laundered. Transaction complete. Disappear. He'd done this 15 times. 7 successfully. 8 failures because someone asked 1 too many questions, demanded 1 extra verification, insisted on something he couldn't provide. The key was step 3. The in-person meeting. That's where he evaluated the target. Decided if this lawyer was controllable, vulnerable, trustworthy. Tomorrow, he'd be evaluating me. Again. But this time, I'd be evaluating him too. I made notes. Things to watch for. Things that might reveal who he really was. Accent. Eastern European. Multiple witnesses reported. Try to identify specific region. Russian, Ukrainian, Romanian. Watch. Luxury brand. Multiple sightings. Always the same brand. Same model? Can we trace purchases? Mannerisms. How does he hold himself? Any nervous habits? Speech patterns? Anything that stays consistent across identities? Physical features. Facial recognition gave 68% probability same person. What features are consistent? Eyes? Nose? Bone structure? Things that can't be easily disguised. I knew I was grasping at straws. Professional criminals don't reveal themselves through nervous habits. But I needed to feel prepared. Needed to feel like I had some control, even though I knew I didn't. He'd been doing this for 5 years. I'd been recruited into this operation 3 days ago. But I had one advantage he didn't know about. I knew what he was. February 11th, 9:47 a.m. My office phone rang. I'd been expecting it. Had been sitting at my desk since 8, waiting. Detective Reeves was in the surveillance van 2 blocks away. "We're recording, Michael. Just be yourself." I picked up. "Michael Carter." "Mr. Carter, good morning. My name is Victor Kozlov. Sarah Lynn referred me to you. I understand you handle real estate transactions?" His voice. The same voice from 3 years ago. But the name was different. Victor instead of Vincent. Kozlov instead of Kowalski. Close, but not identical. Professional caution. "Yes, I do. Sarah mentioned you're looking to purchase property in Toronto." "That's correct. I represent an international client interested in establishing a Canadian presence, looking for something in the 2 to 3 million range. Sarah suggested we meet today at 2 p.m. That works for me. Her office, correct?" "Yes. I look forward to meeting you, Mr. Carter. Sarah speaks very highly of your professionalism." "I appreciate that. I'll see you at 2. He hung up. I sat there, phone in hand. In my ear, Detective Reeves. Good. Natural. Professional. exactly right. In my chest, my heart pounding so hard I was sure the microphone picked it up. 2 p.m. Sarah's office. I arrived 5 minutes early. Detective Reeves and her team were positioned nearby. Coffee shop across the street. Car in the parking lot. Agent posing as another real estate professional in Sarah's office. Victor Kozlov arrived exactly on time. And it was him. Same face, same build, different hair. Shorter now, slightly grayer. Different clothes, navy suit instead of charcoal. But the same eyes, same confident walk, same firm handshake. "Mr. Carter, pleasure to meet you." I shook his hand, felt the wire against my chest, the microphone recording every word. "Mr. Kozlov, please, call me Michael." "And I'm Victor. Thank you for meeting on short notice." We sat. Sarah offered coffee. Victor accepted. I declined. Didn't trust my hands to stay steady. "So," I said, pulling out my legal pad. "Tell me about your client." My client is a Hong Kong-based businessman looking to diversify holdings into Canadian real estate. Prefers privacy, which is why I'm representing him directly. He's interested in a property he can hold long-term, possibly for eventual relocation. Same story. Hong Kong, international businessman, long-term investment. Word for word the same story he'd told me as Vincent Kowalski. Because it worked. Because it was believable. Because it had worked 7 times. As Victor talked, I took notes, acted interested, asked the questions a lawyer should ask. But in my head, I was checking off red flags. Red flag number 1, urgency. My client hopes to close within 60 days if possible. He has other opportunities in Vancouver, but Toronto is preferred. 60 days, the same timeline, pressure to move fast. Red flag number 2, premium fee. Of course, given the expedited timeline, we're prepared to compensate appropriately for prioritized service. Would 5% of transaction value be acceptable? 5% of $3 million is $150,000, several times the normal legal fee. Why? Because generous payment creates gratitude, reduces questioning, makes the lawyer eager to please. Red flag number 3, complex wire structure. Funding will come from corporate accounts in Hong Kong, some routing through Singapore for tax efficiency purposes. Standard international business practice, but I mention it so you're prepared for the wire structure. Tax efficiency. Translation: money laundering layers. But said confidently, professionally, like it's completely normal. Red flag number 4, minimal due diligence. My client prefers minimal property inspection. He trusts my evaluation of structural soundness. Mainly needs legal verification of clean title. No liens, standard protections. Why skip inspections? Because delay creates risk. Because questions lead to discovery. Because speed is essential. Red flag number 5, cash purchase. This will be a cash purchase. No mortgage financing needed. My client has liquid assets readily available. Cash. No bank involvement. No mortgage underwriting. No third-party verification of fund source. Perfect for money laundering. Every single red flag from Detective Reeves's training. Every single pattern from the 15 previous transactions. And I sat there, taking notes, acting interested. Because that's what I was supposed to do. Be a lawyer, process the transaction. Let him believe I didn't know. But I knew. God help me. I knew everything. February 15th, 15 Forest Hill Road. A beautiful property Sarah had found, listed at $2.8 million. Empty. Perfect for what we needed. Victor didn't know the seller was a police asset. Didn't know the property was bait. Didn't know every room had cameras. every conversation recorded. He thought he was closing another deal, another successful transaction, another $3 million cleaned. He was wrong. I arrived at 1 p.m., an hour before the scheduled closing. Detective Reeves and her team were already there. "Remember," she said, "act natural. Process the documents. When he initiates the wire transfer, we have him. And if something goes wrong? We have tactical teams positioned around the property. At the first sign of trouble, we extract you. But nothing will go wrong, Michael. He thinks this is routine, just like the last 15 times." I hoped she was right. The dining room was set up like a proper real estate closing. Documents spread on the table. Pins, water glasses, everything professional and normal. Except for the cameras hidden in the light fixtures, the microphones in the walls, the tactical team in the basement, the armed officers surrounding the property. Nothing about this was normal. But it had to look normal. Had to feel like every other transaction Victor had manipulated his way through. Sarah was there, playing her part, professional, welcoming. "Michael, Victor will be here at 2 with his buyer representative." Buyer representative was an undercover OPP officer, someone to make the numbers look right, someone to help control the situation if needed. At 1:55, I heard a car pull up outside. He was early. Of course he was. Professional, punctual, perfect, just like always. The buyer representative entered first. Late 30s, business suit, carrying a briefcase. She was Detective Chen from the Financial Crimes Unit. I'd met her once during briefing. She nodded to me, sat down, opened her briefcase and pulled out documents. Everything choreographed, everything planned, except for what Victor might do. That was the variable we couldn't control. Victor Kozlov walked in at exactly 2 p.m. Same confident walk, same expensive suit, same warm smile. "Michael, Sarah, good to see you both." He shook hands, sat down, completely at ease. Why wouldn't he be? This was his job, his profession. He'd done it successfully 7 times. 8 if we counted the transactions we didn't know about yet. He was a professional, and this was just another day at the office. "Shall we begin?" he said. "I know everyone's time is valuable." I laid out the documents: title transfer, property disclosure, legal verification, everything a real estate closing requires. He reviewed them quickly, efficiently. Someone who'd done this many times. "Everything appears in order," he said. "Excellent work, Michael. Very thorough." 3 years ago, that compliment would have made me proud. Today, it made me sick. We went through the paperwork, signature pages, disclosures, representations, and warranties. Victor signed everything. Didn't hesitate, didn't question. Someone who knew exactly what he was doing. "And the funds?" I asked. The question Detective Reeves had told me to ask. The trigger for the trap. "Ready for transfer. My associate will initiate the wire once we've confirmed all documentation is complete. I'll need proof of funds before I can accept the wire into trust." "Of course." He pulled out his phone, showed me a bank statement. HSBC Hong Kong. Account balance, $8.7 million. The number was specific, oddly specific, like he wanted me to know he had money to spare. Or maybe it was real. Maybe some criminal enterprise in Eastern Europe really did have $8.7 million in a Hong Kong account, waiting to be laundered through Canadian real estate. I didn't know. Didn't matter. All I needed was for him to initiate the wire transfer. That's when we'd have him. "The wire will come from Hong Kong," Victor said, routing through Singapore and Delaware for tax efficiency. Standard corporate structure for international transactions. There it was. The same language, the same tax efficiency explanation, the same red flag I'd missed 3 years ago. I'll need the routing information for my records, I said. Of course. He handed me a document. Wire transfer routing, starting from HSBC Hong Kong, moving through Singapore, then Delaware, then my trust account. The classic money laundering chain. The pattern FINTRAC had flagged. The structure that had worked 7 times before. I looked at it, pretended to verify the information, made notes, giving Detective Reeves time to photograph it, record it, add it to the evidence file. Are we ready to proceed? Victor asked. I looked at the documents. Everything was there. Everything was correct. Everything was perfectly designed to look legitimate while facilitating a massive money laundering transaction. We're ready, I said. Victor nodded to his representative. She opened her laptop, logged into a banking portal. I watched the screen, saw her navigate to wire transfers, saw her enter the routing information. Source: HSBC Hong Kong. Account number ending in 7734. Amount: 2,800,000 Canadian dollars. Destination: Carter and Associates Trust Account. Account number ending in 2891. My trust account. My professional credentials. Being used again. Just like 3 years ago. Except this time I knew. This time I'd helped set the trap. This time he wasn't getting away. She clicked Initiate Transfer. A confirmation screen appeared. Wire transfer initiated. Processing time: 24 to 48 hours. Victor smiled. Excellent. Thank you, Michael. Very efficient. He stood, extended his hand. I shook it, felt the wire against my chest, the microphone recording everything. My pleasure, I said. And then Detective Reeves's voice in my earpiece. We have him. Execute. The front door burst open. Ontario Provincial Police. Nobody move. Tactical team. 6 officers. Weapons drawn. Flooding the room. Victor froze. For the first time, I saw his composure crack. Saw genuine surprise in his eyes. Victor Kozlov, you're under arrest for money laundering, fraud, and criminal organization offenses. They moved fast. Professional. 2 officers on Victor, hands behind his back, handcuffs on before he could react. He didn't fight. Didn't run. Just stood there, being cuffed, his expression shifting from surprise to resignation. You have the right to retain and instruct counsel without delay. The caution, the formal arrest, the end of a 5-year operation. Sarah stood in the corner, watching. Her part done, the guilt on her face mixing with relief. The buyer representative, Detective Chen, was already packing up her laptop, securing the evidence. And Victor looked at me. Just for a moment. Eye contact across the room. He knew. Understood what had happened, how he'd been caught. And in that moment, I saw something in his eyes. Not anger, not hatred. Respect, professional to professional. I'd beaten him at his own game. Then they took him away. The tactical team secured the scene. Evidence collection began immediately. Victor's briefcase, his phone, his laptop, the fake ID in his wallet, the luxury watch on his wrist. Everything seized, everything bagged, everything documented. Detective Reeves appeared from the basement where she'd been monitoring. Michael, you did great. We have everything. Wire transfer initiation, his verbal statements, the forged documents, all recorded, all admissible. I sat down, hands shaking, adrenaline crashing. Is it over? The arrest is over, but we have a lot of work ahead. He's not talking. Requested a lawyer immediately, but we don't need his confession. We have the evidence. What happens now? Interrogation, fingerprints, matching his identity to the other cases, building the full prosecution. It'll take months. But Michael, you helped us catch a professional money launderer who's been operating for 5 years. That matters. I watched the interrogation through one-way glass. Detective Reeves had invited me, said I'd earned the right to see it. Victor sat in the interview room, handcuffed to the table, silent. Detective Reeves asked questions. Name, real name, who he worked for, where the money came from, how many transactions he'd done. Nothing. Professional silence. The kind criminals use when they know talking will only make things worse. We have your fingerprints, she said. We'll match them to every crime database we can access. Eventually, we'll know who you really are. He didn't react, just sat there. Calm, professional. Like this was part of the job too. Getting caught was a risk he'd accepted. Who do you work for, Victor? Who sent you to launder $18 million? Silence. We know there are other transactions, other lawyers, other properties. How many? 20? 30? How much money total? Nothing. I stood there watching him. This man who'd used me, who'd manipulated me, who'd put my career, my reputation, my family's security at risk. And I felt empty, not angry, not satisfied, just empty. Because he was just a tool, a professional tool, yes. Skilled, experienced, effective, but still just a tool. Somewhere, someone else controlled this operation. Someone who hired Victor, who provided the money, who decided which properties to target, which lawyers to use, how to structure the transactions. Victor was the hand, but someone else was the mind. Will he talk? I asked. Detective Reeves shook her head. Professionals like him? They're taught never to talk. Talking breaks the chain, exposes the organization. And organizations like this one don't forgive. So we'll never know who sent him, who he works for. We'll try. Financial forensics, intelligence gathering, international cooperation. But it takes time, and there's no guarantee. I watched Victor sit there, silent, professional, doing his job even in handcuffs. And I wondered how many others were out there, how many other Victors, working for how many organizations, laundering how much money. This arrest was one victory, but the war continued. They took me to a briefing room, showed me what they'd found. Victor's fingerprints matched a Romanian national named Victor Kosovic, age 52. No criminal record in Romania. Left the country in 2015. Disappeared. Until he showed up in Canada in 2017 as Vincent Kowalski. Then Viktor Kozlov. Then Viktor Kozlov. Different identities. Same person. Same mission. We believe he's working for an organized crime syndicate based in Eastern Europe, Detective Reeves explained. Probably Romanian or Russian. These groups generate enormous criminal proceeds. Millions. Tens of millions. And they need to launder it. That's where Victor comes in. Exactly. He's a professional money launderer. His job is to take dirty money and convert it into clean assets. Real estate is perfect. High-value transactions, legitimate lawyers, trusted processes. She showed me more evidence. 15 transactions over 5 years. 7 successful. $18 million laundered. But that was just what FINTRAC had caught. Just the transactions with suspicious patterns flagged by algorithms. How many others might there be? I asked. We don't know. Could be 15, could be 50. We're only beginning to understand the scope. 50 transactions, hundreds of millions of dollars, dozens of lawyers used, all unknowingly facilitating one of the largest money laundering operations in Canadian history. And I was one of them. They found a laptop in Victor's hotel room, encrypted, but their cyber team cracked it. What they found was chilling. A spreadsheet, rows of names, Canadian real estate lawyers, organized by city, firm size, experience level, success rate. My name was there. Row 47. Name: Michael Carter. Firm: Harper & Associates. Years: experience 15. Status: junior partner. Previous contact: November 2019. Vincent Kowalski. Result: success. Notes: thorough verification but trust senior partner approval. Ambitious. Return target: high probability. Return target: high probability. Because I'd worked once, because I'd processed the transaction without suspecting, because I was a proven mark. He'd documented everything, every lawyer he'd approached, every transaction he'd attempted, every success and failure. Methodical, professional, scientific. The spreadsheet had 127 names, lawyers across Canada. Most marked potential target. Some marked approached. 7 marked success. 8 marked failed. 127 lawyers. How many would have been used if we hadn't caught him? I stared at my name on that screen. Return target: high probability. Everything I'd done right in 2019 had made me a target in 2022. My thoroughness, my professionalism, my trust in James's approval. All the qualities that make a good lawyer had made me a perfect victim. And if this hadn't happened, if FINTRAC hadn't flagged the 2019 transaction, if Detective Reeves hadn't recruited me, if Sarah hadn't mentioned Victor's return, I would have done it again. Gladly, professionally, with the same careful verification that had failed me before, because Victor was that good. The documents were that convincing. The operation was that sophisticated. I'd like to think I would have caught it this time, that I would have learned from experience, that I would have been more skeptical. But I don't know. I honestly don't know, and that's what scared me most. We returned to the Law Society hearing, where we started. February 16th, 2022, 2 days after Victor's arrest. The panel has reviewed everything: the FINTRAC report, the forged documents, my cooperation with police, Detective Reeves's testimony, the evidence from Victor's arrest. The panel chair looks at me. Mr. Carter, this panel has reviewed the evidence extensively. The 2019 transaction that brought you before us today was indeed used to launder criminal proceeds. However, after reviewing your verification processes, the sophistication of the fraudulent documents, and your subsequent cooperation with law enforcement, she pauses. This panel finds no evidence of professional misconduct. The charges against you are dismissed. I hear the words, feel Emma's hand squeeze mine, see my lawyer smiling. But all I can think is, it's over. It's finally over. However, the panel chair continues, we are recommending mandatory additional training on anti-money laundering red flags for all real estate lawyers in the province. What happened to you exposed a systematic vulnerability, one we must address. I nod. Thank you. I'll gladly participate in developing that training. Outside the hearing room, Emma hugs me. My kids are there. James is there. You did it, Emma says. We did it, I correct. All of us. That night, we had dinner at home. First real family dinner in 2 weeks. First meal where I wasn't distracted by files, evidence, fear. My daughter asked, Dad, are you okay now? I'd looked at her, 13 years old enough to know something was wrong, not old enough to understand what. Yes, sweetheart, I'm okay now. You're not in trouble anymore? No, I'm not in trouble. She hugged me, and I realized that for 2 weeks she'd been scared. Scared her dad might go to jail. Scared our family might fall apart. scared of things a 13-year-old shouldn't have to fear. This wasn't just about my career, my reputation, my license. It was about my family's security, their future, their peace of mind. Victor had threatened all of that, without even knowing they existed. That's when I decided, this couldn't just end with his arrest. This had to mean something more. August 2022, 6 months later. Viktor Kosovich, also known as Viktor Kozlov, Vincent Kowalski, and 3 other aliases, was sentenced in Ontario Superior Court. 12 years in federal prison, $18 million in restitution ordered. Deportation recommended upon completion of sentence. 7 lawyers he'd victimized sat in the courtroom, including me. All of us cleared of wrongdoing, all of us witnesses to his sentencing. The Crown prosecutor had built an airtight case, 15 attempted transactions, 7 successful. Systematic fraud, money laundering, criminal organization offenses. Victor stood there as the judge read the sentence, didn't react, professional to the end. But 12 years was nothing compared to what he'd taken from us. Our peace of mind, our trust in our own judgment, our confidence that we could tell the difference between legitimate and fraudulent. He'd stolen something intangible but essential, and no prison sentence could return it. The Law Society didn't just let this go. They couldn't. 7 lawyers had been used, $18 million laundered. The vulnerability was systematic. They created new protocols, mandatory red flag training for all real estate lawyers, updated annually, enhanced verification requirements for international transactions over $1 million, including video calls with clients, additional proof of funds verification, and registered mail confirmation. Partnership with FINTRAC for real-time suspicious transaction reporting. Lawyers got direct access to pattern recognition tools, trust account monitoring software, algorithms flagging unusual wire transfer patterns. And they asked me to help develop the training, to share my story, to teach other lawyers what I'd learned the hard way. I agreed, not because I wanted to relive it, but because if one lawyer caught one red flag because of what happened to me, then maybe it wasn't all for nothing. March 2023, Canadian Bar Association Annual Conference, Toronto Convention Centre. I'm standing at a podium, looking out at 300 lawyers, all real estate practitioners, all people who could be targets, all people who need to know. My presentation title, Red Flags I Missed, a lawyer's story of professional deception. I tell them everything, the Kowalski transaction, the forged documents, the FINTRAC report, the investigation, the arrest. And then I show them the 5 critical red flags. Number 1, unusually high fees. If a client offers to pay several times the normal rate for expedited service, ask why. Legitimate clients don't overpay without reason, but money launderers do, because generosity creates gratitude, which reduces scrutiny. Number 2, pressure for speed. 60 to 90 days sounds reasonable, but combined with other red flags, it's a manipulation tactic. Urgency prevents deep investigation. Number 3, complex wire routing. Any wire transfer through more than 2 intermediary institutions deserves extra scrutiny. Tax efficiency is often code for money laundering layers. Number 4, minimal due diligence requests. Legitimate buyers want inspections, surveys, comprehensive title searches. Money launderers want speed and simplicity. Number 5, cash purchases with generic documentation. Proof of funds letters are easily forged. Insist on video calls with the actual bank manager. Insist on registered mail from the bank directly. Any one of these flags might be legitimate, I tell them. But 2 or more together? That's when you ask questions. That's when you slow down. That's when you verify everything twice. They're taking notes, asking questions, engaged, because this isn't abstract. This is real. This happened. This could happen to them. On the screen behind me, I show the 5 red flags as a checklist. Unusually high fees, 5% or more, versus normal 1 to 2%, or a reasonable flat rate. Pressure for rapid closing, under 60 days. Complex wire routing, 3 or more intermediary institutions. Minimal due diligence, skipping inspections or surveys. Cash purchase with generic proof, HSBC letters, numbered accounts. If you see 3 or more of these together, I say, call FINTRAC, call your law society, call the police. Don't process the transaction hoping it's legitimate, because professional money launderers are exactly that, professional. They're trained to look legitimate, to sound legitimate, to be convincing. I was trained too, 15 years in real estate law. I verified everything. I followed every rule, and I still got used. Don't trust your training alone. Trust the red flags. Trust your instincts. And trust that if something feels wrong, it probably is. The room is silent. 300 lawyers thinking about their own practices, their own clients, their own close calls. Questions, I ask. Dozens of hands go up. Present day. 2024. My office at Harper & Associates. It's been 2 years since Victor's arrest. My practice has recovered. I'm still a junior partner, still handling real estate transactions. But differently now. Every international transaction gets extra scrutiny. Every Hong Kong client gets a video call with their bank. Every wire transfer gets traced back to its actual source. Some clients find it tedious, find me paranoid. A few have gone to other lawyers who don't ask as many questions. I don't care, because I know what I know. I've seen what I've seen. On my wall, there's a certificate. Outstanding contribution to legal education, Canadian Bar Association, 2023. Next to it, my law license. Still active, still valid, still mine. And on my desk, that family photo. Emma, the kids, me. All of us smiling. That's what matters. Not the certificate, not the license. Them. Protecting them. Making sure I never put their security at risk again. I was trained, I was careful. I followed the rules. It still happened. Because Victor Kozlov wasn't just a criminal. He was a professional deceiver. His job was to make everything look perfect. And he was very, very good at it. But here's what I learned. Trust is essential in law. We have to trust our clients, our colleagues, our systems. But trust without verification isn't trust. It's negligence. And the difference between those two things can be a career, a reputation, a family's security. In real estate law, verification might mean one extra phone call, one extra search, one extra question that feels uncomfortable to ask. But that one extra step, it might save everything. Victor taught me that lesson the hard way. Now I teach it to others a better way. Because if one lawyer catches one red flag because of this story, then maybe what happened to me wasn't a failure. Maybe it was a lesson that needed to be learned and shared. Trust, but verify every single time.